Hey, you. That's right. You. Have you been hit with a hankering to play an old school Armored Core game, preferably between generations 2 and 3, and you just wish you could rip out your AC and bring them to life on Blender? Well, great, because buckle up, because here's how we're going to do it. First things first, you're going to want to open up your copy of Silent Line. Technically, you can use any Generation 3 game. I just use Silent Line because it's the only one that cooperates with me. Then, you pick out an AC. So, example, I'm going to make the model that got me through 3. Now, something to note is that you don't really have to care about, like, what parts you put on, I guess, but you do want to pay some slight attention to minor details like the shoulder panels or, like, what your booster flames are. I don't know, I like consistency. So, like, if it's a Mirage booster, then, like, this is going to be green, I believe this one's blue, this one's also blue, this one's orange, this one's purple. You get the idea. Generators you don't really have to care about all that much because, well, you never see these things. Inside parts, though, are where it gets a little tricky because you will have to select those to have the shoulder ports open up, but that's really only if you want inside parts. Otherwise, then you can just chill with, like, the extensions and whatnot. Yeah, so far, getting your AC is just the easy part. Assuming, of course, you actually have an AC you'll like to use. Yeah, okay, this works. Emblem data is a bit tricky to get the hang of, if only because... Okay, how do I explain emblems? Okay, so the way the games render emblems is on a black plane with your design on top of it. That this isn't mine, this is someone else's. So basically this entire, like, black region, this will also be superimposed, so I highly suggest importing your own emblems, just for the sake of, like, if you don't want this horrific black trim around it. I mean, if you don't care, then, well, go right ahead, I guess. Alright, so now we take this into our testing phase. Oh, actually, another thing is you're going to want a simple back unit. Something like this, so that way it can... basically, you want your arms at a neutral position when you capture it because, like, depending on what extensions you have, it can be a real big pain getting the angles back together. I would know from the Crest Assault type, so something like this is honestly, like, a better approach, because, like, with missiles, well, they're just missiles. Although you will have to keep in mind, like, small details like that tiny little flap that opens. Find your desired angle. For any, like, overboost cores, I highly suggest opening them first, because I made this mistake with Agrarian, I'm gonna suffer for it. But anyway, so open it, pause on frame 1, and then we're gonna take a single frame GS dump. I have a link to this version of PCX2 that I'm using. Boop. Alright, we've kidnapped RAC's data. And now, onto Blender. Okay, so now that you have ripped the AC model you want, now it's time to get busy. First, we're going to import a wavefront object file. It's going to be through here. So it's going to be at the top of the list. Soup. You have now officially ripped your AC model. But first we gotta get rid of all these textures, so hit edit mode, face select, Shift G, material, X, vertices. Got to revolve the pesky loose parts. There's always going to be a cluster of vertices. Just do the same thing, Shift G, normal, X, vertices, and there we go. Now press A, center your model, then head to object mode and get the proportions right because they are going to be a little distended. Normally you're going to want to scale them down on the Y axis and scale them up on Z. Yeah, that's about right. It's not. There we go. And there we are. Now, you can delete stuff like this, delete this, and delete these. And from this point onwards, it's kind of just a matter of vertex grouping and attaching bones to it all. So to streamline that, for stuff like the core, if you don't ever plan like using these or you're going to add your own modification animations to make it go, then Shift G material. I can't spell. Sign, deselect. And for static objects on ACs like radars, I kind of just like pairing radars with the cores because, well, it's a radar, it doesn't move. So you can kind of assign these hand in hand. For the feet, I kind of like to do it as a toe heel, just not know for more articulate movements. For weapons, things like laser blades and shields, you can just group these together with the forearms because, well, it's going to be connected regardless. Same thing goes for shoulder extensions most of the time. I guess you could also apply the same thing to right-hand weapons. I do at least because I don't feel like doing a whole nother set for like weapon purging and throwing. I'll just work on that later. Now the same kind of goes for stuff like shoulder parts and whatnot. You are gonna have to put a little elbow grease here, get a separate bone to have these lids close. Or two stages like this, which they aren't that hard on your initial run through, but they will seem a little harrowing. But yeah, give it some time, you'll get the hang of it. But big cores like Jacko here sometimes is. I am noticing substantially less polygons compared to my last Tango with him, but I'm not gonna complain. So yeah, you do want to keep attention to certain details like these, so that way you can keep them as accurate as possible, like how when Agraya uses her VML, first this turns, and then this turns to go up. Basically, it's all just kind of like a matter of observation, really. As long as you're paying attention to how everything functions, you should be getting the hang of it. Hence how I'm able to get my Pride and Joy up and running. For the most part, the models tend to handle the bones perfectly fine. Usually looks pretty good on paper. Usually, I say. usually. Sometimes things like sometimes you will have to make excess bones for things that move like the crow, which I'm not a very big fan of. But what can you do, I suppose? Oh, I can do something about that. Yeah. Yeah, do that for anything that doesn't want to move properly. For things like lights, you can either like create two separate light bones, or you can just pair them to the head bone, whichever tickles your fancy, I guess. I just did these two first because I didn't know I could just pair them, but and maybe I could put like an orange light here for the radar. But otherwise, if you know how to blender, you know how to do an AC. Although a little warning, however, some of these will not cooperate, or specific games in general. What games? That would be Last Raven with its abhorrent texture stacking, which you are going to have to take this apart hand by hand because, well, as you see, getting loose textures also gets every texture, so you are going to have to be very careful with these. Same also applies to Armored Core 3. I don't know anything about Nexus because I never really bothered to do Nexus. I don't know, my logic always was if you could do it in Last Raven, which has all the Nexus parts, why bother using Nexus, but anyway, for Last Raven 3, you are going to have to show some sign of caution for when you really want, like, these legacy parts, or Stinger. I will say, though, they can be very frustrating at times, but hey, that's what I got. But yeah, you now know how you can. Oh yeah, you're also going to have to deal with this if you do Last Raven ripping. Why? Well, that's mainly because I just don't like. I don't know, Last Raven, whenever you try and like rip an AC part while it's in a test, for some reason the legs aren't centered. They're always at like a slight angle to the left, and that always throws me off. Then again, I wouldn't say exactly ripping them from the menu screen is a good idea either, because you almost never get them dead on, so it'll always be like angled ever so slight to the left. So like I said, just rip from Silent Line, that's the most consistent one. If you can rip from Nexus and it doesn't look like a cat vomited on everything, then feel free. But if you do want Last Raven parts, prepare yourself for one hell of a time because, oh boy, Last Raven does not show you any mercy, even in the land of Blender. I am still trying to get this stupid rendition of Cascade Range done. I'm still working on this. Frankly, I think the only reason Last Raven looks this horrible is just because of all the like the lighting textures and crap that are all separate planes, but all in different transparencies. I think that's what screws with it, but I genuinely don't have like a decent excuse for this. This is just atrocious. And now it's your problem. Happy hunting, Ravens. Happy hunting. Okay, editing guy here. Okay, so another thing I forgot to mention. If thou wishes for sound effects, well then I just say get them from the goddamn games. Yeah, that's really it. Just head into like I don't know, AC testing or something, just shoot a wall until your ammo reserves are out. I guess if you want like specific durations, then just time it, I guess. Although I will recommend Silent Lines, accuracy training course, if only just so you can get like the missile sound effects for locking on and stuff like that. I won't exactly recommend doing live fire testing for sounds outside of getting voice lines. Map ripping, I'm still a bit too scared to pull off, if only because I have no idea how I'm gonna rip major areas from the games. But you never know. If there's a will, there's a way. Someone will find a way. Okay. Editing Raven out.